Saturday. Christmas comes early.
Unbelievable! Welcome to this incredible scene.
Bills.
To the end zone!
Chargers.
It's a touchdown!
An exclusive NFL game.
That's fantastic!
Live in primetime.
Wow!
Only on Peacock.
With a Christmas gift to their fans.
They're having some fun now.
Bills versus Chargers. Saturday, 7:30 Eastern. Exclusively on Peacock.
Reboot your credit card with Apple Card, the credit card created by Apple. It gives you unlimited daily cash back that you can now choose to grow in a high-yield savings account that's built right into the Wallet app. Apply for Apple Card now in the Wallet app on iPhone and start growing your daily cash with savings today. Apple Card subject to credit approval. Savings is available to Apple Card owners subject to eligibility requirements. Savings accounts provided by Goldman Sachs Bank USA. Member FDIC. Terms apply.
The holidays are a time to feel and create joy. And what could be more joyous than the look on her face as she unwraps a stunning new jewelry piece from Blue Nile? How about getting 50% off your purchase? Blue Nile offers premium quality, priced below traditional retail. Their online experts are available 24/7 to answer any questions and make sure you've picked the perfect gift. For a limited time, you can get 50% off at BlueNile.com. That's 50% off at BlueNile.com.
Introducing Royal Caribbean's newest ship, Icon of the Seas, the ultimate family vacation. The ultimate 6 slides, 8 neighborhoods, 0 compromise vacation. The ultimate never done that, can't wait to do it vacation. The ultimate chillin' by a different pool every day of the week vacation. This is the Icon of Vacations. Icon of the Seas, arriving in 2024. Book today. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
Anything to shake this mood I'm in. My football team's got me drinking.
Welcome back to another episode of Shades of Blue. We'll go with that because we're going to cover probably several different things. How about shades of red, white, and blue? Because we'll have some red with some white, some blue, some other stuff. What do you think? This is Stab Bell from the Kansas City Soccer Journal. With me, I have Mike Kuhn from the Kansas City Soccer Journal and Daniel Sperry from the Kansas City Star. You guys need a better name than that, man. Come on.
I don't make it. I don't make the rules. Sorry.
All right. I haven't really got to talk soccer for a few days with holidays and people being out of town and lots of other things going on. Too many games. So we just got together because we need to talk. Big news today. Felipe Gutierrez is back. I got to admit, my first reaction was like, really? How about you guys? Daniel?
I laughed mainly because I texted somebody yesterday after the Quadvo at Poku news, and I think, let's see if I have to pull up this text thread, but I ended up texting somebody and I said, oh, it was someone that I talk to regularly for sporting stuff. And I said, am I wrong in getting the vibe that there will be little to no movement from sporting this window? And the response was, and here I was about to tell you that we'll be introducing a new signing at training tomorrow. And I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, and I said, holy crap, who? Dom Dwyer, as a joke, because that was the last person that they were kind of like in the mood with. So, and he goes, it's a former player. So you're halfway there. And Felipe was actually my first guess because in my head, that seemed like the most likely, former player at the moment to come back. Like, I mean, even of all those in MLS, those have gone abroad, Felipe seemed like the most unsettled. I didn't know that they were looking necessarily at the midfield, but my initial reaction was, wow. I went back and looked at 2018 sporting highlights and just to remember how freaking good he was, and how good that team was in general. That's easily one of the best sporting, I think, since I've covered this team. Obviously you guys have been around for almost the entirety, if not all, of sporting's history, but since I've covered the team, 2018 in my mind is the best team that I've covered out of all of them over the years, and Felipe was a huge part of that. I think then the second question was how much, and I think once you realize how much it's for and the contract, I think it's a perfectly fine move. I think there's some folks who I'm sure there are arguments out there that he's too old, you don't like this and all that. So I know those are parts of the equation, but even if you listen to Vermeer's comments today of how much I won't try and shoot the entire show out here in my response, but you know, in Vermeer's response today, I mean, don't think like this is not one, they're not getting Felipe Gutierrez that they got in 2018. And I think two, they know that. And they know what they've got with him, and I think they will use him in the spots that they see accordingly. And if a Remy Walter or a Nemanja Radoja pick up a longer term injury, I know Radoja is on the injury report now as of time of recording, then maybe it turns into something where he sees more time. But I see him mainly doing similar to what Roger and Felipe have been doing, just in a maybe more trustworthy player at the moment. So
how about you, Mike? What was your initial reaction, man?
Surprise, I guess, would be a good way of putting it. I mean, my first thought was midfield is probably the one position that I didn't feel like Kansas City needed to add anything this window. I thought if they were adding anywhere, I thought they probably needed to try to get a little bit more depth on the wing. So adding a central midfielder when you have arguably four guys that can start there on any given day, plus Felipe Hernandez and Roger Espinoza, it didn't seem like a position of need. At the same time, we all know Peter Vermes is the way summer signings tend to get slowly integrated into the team. And so adding a player who, even though he's been gone for technically, I guess, 3 years, because 4 years at this point, the system is overall the same. Little tweaks have been made to it, but it's still the same system. So bringing in a guy who has played in the system before probably picks it up a little bit quicker than somebody who's not. Jury's still out for me. The fact that he is the season-ending injury replacement for Courtney Ford, so his salary is not a huge thing. It is a plus to me, considering that he was on like 570, I think, according to the Players Association numbers last year with Colorado. So overall, I'm not against it. I'm just I'm a little surprised based off where positionally he fits in the team.
Yeah, that was my first thing. Was like, well, this is not the position we want. We need something like, another striker, another winger, a center back that is trustworthy. There's so many places that they could. I shouldn't say it that way. There's so many places that I thought they would, if they were going to go somewhere, they would go somewhere. But I really don't dislike this at all. I mean, like you've kind of both have said, it's a guy who can come in and fill several spots. If he's even half the player he was at one point, he can come in and get some valuable minutes. I don't think he's going to play a ton. He's not going to be getting lots of starts. He might get a couple here and there, but I'm pretty good with it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he was bad last year with Colorado. I don't think he was great. I was actually just pulling up his stats from last year with Colorado. He played 850 minutes, give or take, had 2 assists in 12 appearances, 10 of them starts, which was about what he did in the 6 months he was in the Middle East. He played like 10 games, played a little over 800 minutes, and had a goal there. So, I mean, couple contributions off the bench. It's not a bad addition. It's just, I think a lot of people are more surprised that that's the way they went.
Yeah, I think listening to Vermees talk about it too, like, I mean, so obviously the rule changed for the season-ending injury replacement player too, right? Like, last year, if they'd have been under this year's rules, they would have been able to sign another DP. Now they figured out a way to technically do that with Eric Tommy, who came in as a TAM player and then was elevated salary-wise to a DP the next year. We've learned, I think we've all learned at this point that the cap from year to year is very malleable, and it's not a fixed average annual value that ends up being your cap hit year to year. It's your salary plus the amortized transfer fees. So they can do things like, they could have done things like that, but this year, with it being Courtney Ford being the guy who goes on season-ending injury list, I mean, they get the relief of his salary and can plug someone in at the same salary directly to that spot. I would assume that they are probably allowed to use allocation money to buy down the player to that relief point if they have it available. I don't see anything in the rules that says no, you can't do that. I think the budget charge just needs to be what it is. So they might have a little bit of gam on this more, but ultimately he's getting paid what he's getting paid. He counts as the season ending injury list player for this year. And then if he is decent and they feel like they want to keep him around, then he's they have an option to exercise next year. And if not, and he doesn't work, it's gone. I mean, it's it. And if we all say, okay, they've got 4 midfielders in front of them, Verdoya is through 25, Remy Walter has an option for 24, Gutti's technically out of contract at the end of this season, and then Eric Tommy's contract expires at the end of next year with an option for 25. Felipe signed on until 2025. I mean, there's a lot of midfield. Rogers really, there's potential that they need more midfield spots next season, and his salary can jump in there if they need to. But I don't know. If he's good, great, and if he recaptures even, a little bit of who he was in 2018 and 2019, it's a great asset to have off the bench for Sporting. And if he doesn't, then that's fine. Move on. I'm interested though, because I mean, 2020, before the season started and before COVID ruined everything, I was super excited about the prospect of a midfield of Ilie and Guti and Felipe Gutierrez all underneath Alan Polito and with Daniel and Johnny, and that never materialized because of the way the injury went for him. So it's maybe a chance to see that in some small facet at some point this year, which is intriguing to me.
Well, you mentioned something else that I think's probably important to acquiring Gutierrez was the rule change for the season-ending injury, not just the salary percentage, but also the fact that they didn't have to do it until the secondary window opened. It used to be you had to do it before the primary window closed.
Yeah, you just have to place the guy on SCI before the secondary window opens, right?
Yeah, and that was the rule change for this year, along with the Sporting KC Memorial rule for replacing DPs as well. But that I think is just as important to it, because if they have to make this decision before the primary window closes with Ford, Gutierrez is still playing in the Middle East at the time. So
Dom Dwyer is probably on the roster.
Yeah, exactly. Dom Dwyer is probably your SCI replacement in last year's world. If the same rules were in place, it probably is Dom Dwyer in that position, especially with the timing of Agata's injury at the same time. So the fact that I honestly hadn't thought about that until you started talking about the rule change for it. But yeah, that I think is an important part with the addition of Gutierrez in this as well. Definitely.
Yeah.
The other thing I would throw out there too, and I'm not totally sure on this, but I know at one point the rules have changed enough that I'm never sure exactly what they are anymore. But because it's a mid-year signing, he could sign for 160, but his real salary be 320, and next year it just bumps up to 320. Just kind of
correct. Yeah, you're only charged a portion of only charged the half season salary, which is why Tommy could be a DP this year, but not come in as one last year, even though he was technically a DP.
Yeah. Just want to kind of make sure that's kind of clear. I like this because he can come in and he can play the 6, he can play the 8, he can play the 10, the 3 front spots. The one that surprised me, and I was kind of laughing about this when we were talking, and I'm like, oh, he's going to say left back, and then he did.
Yeah, he said left back. We got Johan.
Did he play? Did he play false 9 a little bit, or was that just, I know Quasi did. Quasi did
Yeah.
that a whole lot, but I feel like in the back of my mind, I'm like, didn't Gutierrez do that a little bit? But maybe
Yeah, I
I'm
think he did.
misremembering.
There was a stretch, I think, where they ended up playing a 4-4-1-1, I think, or something like that, where he would play essentially right underneath the striker. They were doing it a lot towards the end of 2019 when they were pushing for points, and he was the only one worth a few bucks that was going to score a goal for him.
There was a lot though during 2019. Towards the end, he was playing the 6 because Ilya had moved back,
and at that point, yeah,
and
or Ilya wasn't playing well, and they had him benched for a bit there too.
Yeah. So while he could fill in at the 6, the last how many games did they lose at the end of 2019, Mike?
I don't. The
It
only
was like
the one
7
I remember,
games and 7 losses and a draw or something like
something
that.
like that. They didn't end the season amazingly well, but the only one I remember is just the end of the season down in Dallas that year.
That was brutal.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to do a redo of a previous trip you had been on down there.
No, I had not drank enough to do that.
We don't need to get into that story right now. We can do that on another pod. All right. Let's see. Anything else we want to talk about for Felipe or for Sporting in the next 5 minutes?
What about the other Felipe?
Hernandez?
What does this mean? What does this mean for the other Felipe?
I mean, I'm that's goes back to my comment about being surprised at the positioning for it, because Hernandez has not been getting a lot of time lately. I think he's played minimal minutes in the last, I'd say, since the start of June.
Yeah.
I'd have to go back and look, but I know I think he's played maybe 1 game since the start of June.
He's gotten some time at SKC too.
Yeah, he has gotten time with SKC too, but I think the only appearance he's made for the first team was it the Portland game? I think that's the only game he's played in, without going
Just
over
checking
here and looking it up. But I think he's not played a lot lately, and so I'm in that sense. I hope he gets more time than with SKC2 to just keep playing. But
yeah,
it's disappointing. I mean, I know a lot of fans will say like, "Oh, he should be getting time over Roger. He should be getting more time here." And it's frustrating because I want to see the young players play, and I mean that's been something I've ranted on a little bit. It is just Kansas City's reliance on veteran players for the most part. So I'd like to see the likes of Hernandez get more time, and this would, on the surface, seem to push him further down the depth chart.
Will this enable Peter to sub more?
I don't know how much that matters, to be honest.
I think he's been subbing more this year than in prior years. I mean, he's about using at least 3 subs a game for the most part.
Yeah,
true.
I went back and looked. Felipe has played 1 minute since the 13 minutes that he had played in that Portland win. He since May 10th, which was the loss in the Open Cup against Houston, where he played 78 minutes. He has played a total of 20 minutes with the first team. And that's a lot of games there at this point. I think this is my concern with Felipe, and I like Felipe a lot. He's a good kid. It's been great to see him rebound from the whole gambling thing that happened. But at this point, he's 25 years old. Like, at some point, he's no longer a young guy that needs to break into the team. Like, he was given opportunities early in the season to start and play a lot of minutes, and he didn't really capitalize on them then. And he's shown that he can be a good player off the bench in the right game state. But he's not. I think Peter even kind of said it a couple of weeks ago. Like, he hasn't been. He didn't really name names, but he talked about he needs guys that like that's the role for Felipe right now, is to be impactful off the bench. But if you expect a guy at 25 years old to have broken into the first team at that point, and so if you're needing to rely on a guy to close out games and to give you 60 minutes and to give you a good 60 minutes or so here and there, maybe to spell Remy's legs for a stretch or something like that, then can you rely on Felipe in those moments? And I don't know that Felipe has really shown yet this year that he can. And I think that's the sad part, because I do like Felipe and I like his game, but it's been a bit of a slow start to him, and he was given opportunities early to kind of take a hold of the midfield spot if it was available, and he didn't. And so, I think that this move kind of confirms where he is in the pecking order. But I think at some point, Felipe is no longer a young player that needs time to like grow and develop. He's 25. If he's not there yet, then he's not there yet. And that's probably another conversation that has a whole other level of layers to it. But I don't know. I have a hard time considering him a young player anymore at this point.
Well, they're all young players, but that's easy. Yeah, when I'm old, I know.
Well, my comment about young players just goes back to the fact that with Davis, outside of Davis, the youngest player on the field for pretty much the last 3 or 4 years consistently as a starter has been Shallowy, and Shallowy turns 27 in a matter of days, I think. So it's just been the lack of players younger than Shallowy that have been able to break in and hold on to a position in the team. Basically, I guess that was my overall point in my frustration.
Oh, and this was not like pointed at you too. This is a general Twitter and Reddit complaint. and Facebook group complaint where I see stuff and I'm like, I really want to pound my head against the wall right now. But yeah, it's all part of. I'm sure there's another layer of conversation to what's going on with that younger level of players there, but. At some point, 25 is not the young player that needs to break through anymore. That's Jake Davis this year. That's John Polskamp right now. Even Logan and Denbei too. So
yeah, you got to claim it, man. And that's the thing, is you have to take a hold of it when you have the chance. And if you don't, you're now a squad player. And that's pretty much that's his role now. I like the guy, and I hope he does break through, and I wish him well, but it's just not quite where it's at. All right, we're going to take a short break, and we'll come back on the other side of probably some ads. And if there are no ads, then that's bonus to you guys that are listening. But we're going to stop this and come back on the other side.
This episode is brought to you by Google Pixel, the official fan phone of the NBA and WNBA. The new Pixel 8 and Pixel 8 Pro are built different. How? Take the Audio Magic Eraser tool that helps block out distracting crowd noise so your play-by-play commentary sounds crystal clear. The only phone engineered by Google brings out the audio you care about so your videos sound as crisp as they look. Learn more at googlestore.com/pixelnba. Audio Magic Eraser requires Google Photos app. May not work on all audio elements.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. You might say all kinds of stuff when things go wrong, but these are the words you really need to remember. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. They've got options to fit your unique insurance needs, meaning you can talk to your agent to choose the coverage you need, have coverage options to protect the things you value most, file a claim right on the State Farm mobile app, and even reach a real person when you need to talk to someone. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
'Tis the season to shine with H&M. Discover the holiday collection and find fashionable pieces for your wardrobe or for under the tree. Get inspired and dazzle with this year's glam. From tuxedo styles, bow detailed pieces, impressive prints, and more. From unforgettable looks to unforgettable gifts. With fashion finds to home decor, find it all at H&M. Treat your loved ones and yourself this season. Shop in-store or at hm.com.
All right, we are back for part 2 of this pod. Hopefully you didn't have to listen to too many commercials. I didn't have to. I just had to wait for a thing to save. That's a whole nother story. All right.
And for me to hit join again.
We were looking at the top of Sperry's head for a while as he just did not look up to hit join on the pod. So I had to text him to say connect.
Millennials and their phones.
But I have to confess, I was on a Zoom yesterday where I was looking and reading something and I never looked up until
never joined.
I joined. I was on. I just never spoke because I looked up, and by the time I hit connect on the audio, I didn't know what had been asked, so I couldn't ask anything. I didn't want to ask the same thing had already been asked. I'm too embarrassed to do that.
What were you going to ask? Because now I want to know.
Oh, I don't know, man. It was what the Louisville or whatever. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I went back.
No one asked them about Louisville, so your question would have been safe.
Yeah, well, it's okay. It probably was not that relevant, or it would have not been that current now. So,
boo.
Okay, speaking of the current,
boo again.
I do not want to get into breaking down Louisville because by the time this pod's out, it'll be not that big of a deal. But they signed a player recently, Stine Ballisager Pedersen. And
Pedersen, whichever.
Yeah, I've heard other people say it.
Yeah, pronunciation guys has Pedersen.
Right. So. I was actually curious because in all the references they were referring to her as Ballisager. I'm probably not saying that one either correctly. So I was like, Are we sure? Why is she going by a middle name? What name is that? I even texted a Great Dane person that I know and asked him why they should be called that. And
this is going to make you text a dog, but no,
a Great Danish keeper that we would know.
Yes.
And
he's a dog. DAWG. He's a dog. Yeah. There you go.
but his response was because she wants to be unique. He said 25% of Denmark's last name is either Nielsen or Pedersen or what was the other one? So anyway,
Johansson.
Oh, now I have to go look.
Eriksson. Christian Eriksson. Another Great Dane. As you can tell by my
if we give it
scarves.
If we give it a little bit of time, I'm sure we'll come up with all the stereotypical Scandinavian
names.
Jensen. He said 25% of the country is Pedersen, Jensen, or Nielsen. So I think there was a lot of those other names though too. But anyway, Danish national team center back.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the Current have needed some extra defensive help this year. Why, Daniel? Why did they not sign her 3 months ago?
Because they wouldn't have had the World Cup as an excuse to why she wasn't playing yet. I don't know. I don't know. They only like to sign players that they can't use right away. So I for real, I don't know why it didn't happen earlier. Obviously, I got to break it. I've known from other people, not even related to the Current. I have known this name for almost a month now. And so obviously I think there was a chance to get something done. So I wonder, and this is just my hypothetical because I never got a straight answer on this.
That's a shock.
If they, definitely not. If they signed her during the primary transfer window, she likely would have been in preseason with her club in Norway. So the Norwegian season runs the same length runs the same calendar as MLS does actually. And well, they are kind of in the middle of their season at the moment. They every rest of Europe is taking their time off. So I wonder if that played a role just in the fact of maybe the club wasn't quite ready to let her go. I think the problem was that she was going to get a lot of exposure at the World Cup, and I think the Current wanted to snap it up now as soon as they could, but maybe it just didn't get over the line on the other side. If you remember the Claire Lavogé thing last year, she took forever for her to get in there, and I think they kind of and when they had to sign Croy Soto, it was like, oh, we need to sign her now because Alex is out and Elizabeth is out. And I think at that point, it's too much of an emergency and she wouldn't have gotten there anytime soon. So I wonder if that was the role. I also think they thought Elizabeth Ball was going to be back sooner than she was. The initial timeline that I got on her was she returned almost a month after that.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of factors as to why it didn't happen earlier and when the Current really needed it. However, when she comes after the World Cup, they're gonna have a really solid back line. At that point, presumably Hannah Glass should be full go. So then by the time they come back from the World Cup, you're looking at Hannah Glass, Stine Pedersen, Ballisager, whichever last name you want to use for her.
Stine.
Or if you want to use all three, Stina, sorry.
Just go with Stine.
And then if you want to use Elizabeth Ball, and then one of Haley Mace or Izzy Rodriguez, and that's a solid move. I mean, 43 caps with Denmark. She's one of the best. She's a player that's known for being consistently healthy too. She's led the Norwegian league 3 times in minutes played as a pro player, so that's a big deal as well. She's played in Women's Champions League, so she's played against the likes of the Wolfsburgs and the Barcelonas and the Chelseas in that fashion as well. I think she'll do well here, and it's a good move for a player that has a high pedigree and experience that they very much need on the back line, because their other 3 options have like a combined like minutes played of maybe one entire season put together between all 3 of them, and one of them has been in the league for 3 years, and 2 of them are rookies. So if that's telling you something about where they're at on depth behind ball, there you go.
Which I will say was a little bit misguided coming into the season, that they did not have more depth there. I know that the NWSL is not your first love, Mike, but I know you follow everything soccer closely. What's your thoughts on the signing or anything else from there?
Well, I mean, you kind of said what my main point was, which I had noticed from, like, they made all these really, really good signings, but they ignored their defense. And
you don't need defense if you score 72 goals.
You don't, but when you're not scoring goals like they weren't for a while, you need a defense to step up, and they didn't have defenders that could step up in that situation. So, I mean, it's the defense seemed like an area even last year from the few games I was able to watch that stood the most need to upgrade, I guess, to get some new players in to help build that area up. That seemed like an area last year that they needed to improve in. Then they went and got, again, really, really good players in the front 6, basically, that really helped the team out, but it neglected the defense. And for the first half of the season, basically, they've kind of struggled at times defensively. So I don't know enough about the women's game to speak to how good she's going to be with the team.
Was that your effort to avoid saying her name?
Yes, pretty much.
Okay,
Yes, it was. But I mean, it's the pedigree is there. I can look at the information that was provided by the Kern. I can go look at her stats and be like, oh, the pedigree is there that she should dramatically help the team defensively, which is what the team needs at this point.
Yeah, I would agree. I will criticize for having not signed additional defenders or upgrading that defense. I mean, they did bring in Hannah Glass, which, of course, here's the issue: is everybody they brought in was injured or couldn't play right away, and that really hamstringed the entire team. And then when they lost players like Loetta and Ball, it just made it worse. I think they were hopefully counting on that Morgan Gautreau and Vanessa DiBernardo and Dabinia would get in and solidify the midfield well enough that the back line didn't have to be as tested. And that strategy may have failed. Obviously, it failed quite a few times this year. So I will give them at least maybe that was the strategy. I just don't know if, obviously, it didn't work.
Yeah. Also, too, I mean, you have to look at, they started the season with a different coach in mind. And I think Alex Loetta was seen as a defender. And I think very clearly right now she's not seen as a defender, given her run in the midfield at the end of last season. And I personally don't think you make this move if you think you have, if you are set a team that's set on playing a back four, and you have Elizabeth Ball, and right before the World Cup you're getting Alex Loetta back. I don't think you make this move if you think Alex Loetta is the center back that's complementing Elizabeth Ball in the back four, and you're not playing a back three or back five anymore as your main strategy, especially when you've got Morgan Gautreau in there. So is Alex Loetta now a midfielder, and then now you're looking at where does Lola Bonta and Vanessa DiBernardo fit into the two midfielder spots, because Dabinia is definitely playing the 10. So who's playing the double pivot? That's a fun problem to have.
Right.
And I think that's the problem that they're willing to create for themselves and say, we're okay with Croy Soto and Gabrielle Robinson and Addison Merrick in certain scenarios if they have to play next to Elizabeth Ball or Stine Pedersen. But Alex Loetta is not a part of that backline image at the moment. And which is crazy, because last year, the very first game they started, Jenna Weinbrenner, Alex Loetta at the back line, and both of them have now essentially been turned into sixes, which is interesting.
Yeah, and that has been very strange that they have actually both been better at the six than they were at the center back spot. But in fairness, Loera was she played a lot of roles in college, so she did play a six, she did play a center back, she played an outside back, so she could be used any of those spots. And when she had to move up a little bit when they were in the attack last year, she was pretty good at that too. So I would be quite okay with her being a 6-8 kind of player.
Yeah, when Desi was at the CONCACAF Championships last year and they plugged her directly into Desi's role, I thought, holy cow, we've got a home for her. I mean, she is the perfect destroyer lone six. She's tall and physical, but she has the speed to close down. She's a great tackler. She's a good player of the ball. She's smart in possession, and she understands the buildup. I mean, I was sitting there like, oh, okay, at one point last year, I thought they might be better with Alex Loetta as the lone six than they were with Desi at the lone six. I'm
pretty sure we had some pods where we both made that statement.
Yeah.
And then with Desi being out this year, I was kind of a little surprised they actually ended up signing her back, but I think they just could not let her go.
And if she says, I want to come back, do you really want to be the team that says, well, you don't have a spot on our team anymore? Probably not.
That's tough. I have to admit. I know Mike wants to jump in and complain about the first game that Desi plays might be at the World Cup, but
I mean, that's my general. It's a frustration, I guess, is the best way to put it. That her first game of the year would appear that it could likely be at the World Cup instead of with the current. Basically, that's a frustration that I shared on Twitter, and it's just. Yeah, it is what it is. I understand the situation, but at the same time, as a fan of the team, not necessarily a fan of the Canadian national team, it's frustrating to be like, oh, there she goes off to the World Cup, and she appears to be making the roster, basically.
Yeah.
Well, they don't announce the roster until tomorrow, I think.
No, Sunday, right? I might be wrong.
It's coming up. Maybe Saturday. I signed up for the Zoom for it, but it's coming up shortly.
It's supposed to be, if I read it right, it was a one soccer special ahead of the USA-Canada quarterfinal match of the Gold Cup.
So
let me see.
But it is not actually that uncommon for players in the women's game to
Sunday
sacrifice the club team a lot for the national team. I mean, I know of the U.S. national team women have done that a lot in the past. Not all of them, but
that was also because their contracts were held by U.S. Soccer, not by the NWSL teams.
True, but I think that didn't matter, quite honestly. And I do understand it. The national team takes precedence, and I think with Desi, I think she could have been back in training, but they were just being a little extra cautious so that she would basically be able to go to Canada as injury-free as possible. All right. Speaking of national teams, we had some fun over the weekend. The U.S. men scored.
We did?
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah. Dumbass. I'm not editing that out. I had a lot of fun watching the U.S. score a bunch of goals and watching SKC2 score a bunch of goals at the same time, essentially. It was kind of fun. Almost simultaneous games. SKC2 ended up winning 7-1. U.S. ended up scoring winning 6-0 over Trinidad. Were you guys like doing the same thing as I was and kind of watching both games?
Yeah, no. I had Apple TV on one screen and I had the US on another. I had SKC2 on with the volume, which may not, which depending on your opinions on the Fox broadcast team may have been the right choice, may have been the wrong choice. Again, depending on your situation, your opinion on the MLS Next Pro play-by-play announcers.
I don't have a high opinion of either of those.
I actually like John Strong.
I don't mind.
Was he on MLS Next? I'm kidding.
Holden. The stories get a little much sometimes, I think, with Holden, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah. Strong's halftime quip of 45 down, 45 to go is just like, oh, like that's, I don't know, that jazzes me up every time I hear it. There have been multiple times where like at halftime in the press box, and Patrick, the press officer for Sporting, and I have talked about this multiple times. That's like one of our favorite things is John Strong's 45 down, 45 to go. And so like when there have been multiple times where in the press box we've gotten up to stretch and like we'll turn around and make eye contact and it's like 45 down, 45 to go. Like, you know, it's one of those, it's great. I love John Strong. I actually really think he does a really good job. He's been one of the best announcers that Fox has had covering soccer, period, and play-by-play, save for our own local Nate Bucati. Some may not like him. I like him. I think he does a good job. But in general, no, I did not watch SKC2. I was doing TV stuff for both Fox 4 and 41, balancing both stations and trying to change shirts in between. But at both stations, we did watch the USA game while we were either waiting to record at Fox 40 or at 41 or at Fox, where we were sitting there in the studio watching the rest of the game. Yeah, fun game for USA. That's the only one I watched. A fun scoreline for Sporting KC2 as well, scoring a touchdown.
And almost had the shutout. They gave up that goal right at the end. How much time was left, Mike?
Minute or two of stoppage time.
Yeah.
They did. I think it was actually less than a minute. It was frustrating given how they played. I struggle to badmouth the kids in that because Natty Clark did, I felt, overcommit on what was the Vancouver goal and kind of left Pulskamp out to dry a little bit on it, but it is what it is. The guy that scored, I believe, was actually also had played it for Vancouver the night before. I think he came off the bench, if I remember right, but it is what it is. I mean, it was good to see the first team players that haven't been getting time get time and look good doing it. It's nice to see SKC2 actually fill me with some promise for the future of the club, I guess would be a good way of putting it, with both the SKC players and the SKC2 players. I mean, you and I, Thad, have talked about how Cruz has impressed us. Bryant has impressed us. There was another name that I'm now blanking on who, Vidal has impressed me. Yep. And then I would add, given the play he showed against Vancouver, I'm adding Vargas, honestly, to that list because he was very good against Vancouver. And he's honestly been looking good in the games he has played. I've watched and
looking better each time that I've been able to watch him. Yeah. He's like a little bit of a wild card though. Like, I mean, you're not quite sure what he's going to do at times, but I think the goal he scored also was a little bit of a fluke, but he put the shot in where it needed to be. So,
Yep. But
um,
no, I like having hope in it goes back to our conversation from part one about wanting to
right.
see the kids, wanting to see them improve and do better. And for the last 3-4 years with SKC2, have we really had that level of like
No.
looking at the roster being like, oh yeah, these players, I have hope that these players could move up? I didn't feel that. And for the first time in a while, I actually feel, oh, maybe some of these players could contribute at some point.
And just if people weren't paying attention, Cam Duke, Steven Afrifa, Felipe Hernandez, Danny Flores, Vargas, Pau Vidal, and was it Andrew Draper? Yeah. They were the 7 goal scorers for Sporting. And yeah, the Whitecaps.
Good stuff.
What's that?
Good stuff.
Yeah, it was and several of those guys, I think, if Sporting took a couple injuries, could come up and then be a bench player. I mean, I don't think any of them are ready to start, but Vidal has got a nose for the goal. Draper has been a really good winger for him, and I think he's been a guy who's been spoken about potential before he came to SKC2.
So. Ethan Bryant still is my favorite SKC2 player.
I like Bryant.
Yeah.
He's good. He's fun to talk to. I mean, I don't know. Thad, you were in the locker for the Tulsa game, right? Like there was a lot of us around media wise, and he seemed very wide eyed for the moment, but handled himself very well in the locker room. I think it was first like real kind of somewhat big time experience, right, even though it was about as average as a media turnout for a Tuesday night quarterfinal or Tuesday night Open Cup against a semi-pro team. But Brian's been one of my favorites to watch on SKC2. I do like Draper a lot. Pau Vidal, like you said, great nose for goal, good finisher. I'm interested to see more about Natty Clark because I liked him when I watched the Next Pro, not MLS Next Pro, but just the Next Pro, the academy stuff. I liked watching him in some of the games that I watched of that. He stood out to me there, and in general, I think there's some players that I think in this squad that are young academy kid that have been up there with the team, that are young academy-ish type kids that certainly should be playing at a USL level at some point in their career.
Right.
And so, if your team, if Sporting KC's like fringe roster spots were filled up with like some of the best USL players, I think they'd be pretty good off on depth as well. So I think, even if you're developing kids to be roster spot number 27 on the supplemental roster, but they can contribute when they come in, it's probably a good thing. So I'm happy with what I've seen from SKC2 this year. I think Benny's done a good job.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you want your academy producing Bucios and guys you can sell to Europe. However, you also need them to give you guys who can give you minutes, off the bench or just, fill in start spots. Speaking of Natty Clark, he was one that when he was in the academy, I thought was, he was one of the best guys, and everybody's talking about how good he was. He was, often ranked in top 10 in the country in his age and things like that. And I think he fell off there for a while. And I think there was an injury. And I think during the COVID era, he fell off a bit. And even at the beginning of this year, he was, I think, struggling a little bit, not living up to the hype. But I think he's gotten better each game. And that's maybe just getting all of that time back and that confidence. So maybe he will be a guy that we see up with the first team.
I mean, it'd be nice. I mean, I'm going to be beating the point of the young players. You're not going to get a Bucio every time. You're not going to get an Eric Palmer Brown. You're not going to get you're not even going to get Shallowies and Lindsays that are going to be regular MLS contributors. You're going to have, and this is the part with the academy that I think a lot of people struggle with the academy signings, is they're not all going to work out. In fact, the majority of them probably aren't going to work out. The majority of them are going to move on to college soccer, play there, and then move on to careers. Basically, you're not going to have a hit every single class. Unfortunately, you're hoping to get contributors out of the classes, but it's not going to be that successful, unfortunately. And it's been frustrating at times with the academy, especially over the last few years. So hopefully we start to see them turn the corner, and we start to, even the ones that may not make the first team that much, we're seeing them move on to the USL Championship or USL 1 and still being able to play professionally, which we haven't
do well.
seen. Yeah, and do well. And that's something we haven't seen from a lot of the academy kids or the guys that have just been signed to SKC2 the last few years. They play a year and then they're gone, and the ones that are American players kind of just phase out of the professional game, it seems like. So,
and ultimately it's okay for, half of the guys who become homegrown players for Sporting to actually go play USL afterwards. Is actually a good thing, because it lifts them up too. And every team, every level getting raised up a bit is going to help the overall game in the country. Let's see, just segueing into the national team from that with the few minutes we have left. The group stage of the Gold Cup, man. Were you impressed with Jesus Ferreira?
I mean, you can only play against the teams that are in front of you. I'm not gonna wade into the he can only score against the crap team stuff. You can only play against the teams that you're scheduled.
He has scored against Sporting, so yeah.
But I mean, he's scoring goals. That's what a forward is supposed to do, whether it's against St. Kitts Nevis or whether it's against Mexico. He's putting the ball in the net, which is what you want your forward to do. It's not his fault he's not playing a lot of games against other teams, basically.
How about you there, Daniel?
What was the question again?
Were you in love with Jesus Ferreira now?
Am I in love,
or are you saving your love for Cade Cowell?
I've been in love with Jesus Ferreira for a while now, actually. I think he's a darn good forward, and he made his money moves literally by signing a DP level contract with FC Dallas and sticking around and taking the bet on himself, while some of his other counterparts, Pepe, went over to Europe and has kind of floundered and didn't make the World Cup roster. And so I think Pepe's all obvious at the time floundered, but he's been doing well with Groningen. I think what he's supposed to got to move to PSV recently too. So I'm not going to say Pepe's bad or anything like that, but Ferreira is what he is. He's consistent, and he's a better goal scorer than Giassi Zardes ever was. He's significantly younger than Giassi Zardes was when he was breaking into the national team. And I think for me, I look at Ferreira and like, does he play in Europe? No. But I mean, if he plays in MLS long enough, he's going to break the all-time goal scorer. He could break Wando's record pretty easily if he stayed in MLS long enough and had a long career of longevity and all of that. I think he's a really darn good goal scorer and a good finisher, and I think he can kind of adapt in multiple ways as a striker based on who he's playing around. So I actually was of the one that after the first game against Wales, I actually wanted Josh Sargent. I didn't want Josh Sargent to play. I wanted Ferreira to play as the striker. Actually, might have been after the England game. I think I was lobbying for him to play against Wales or against Iran in the last game, because I thought the type of player that he is, he could do it. He didn't show very well when he did get the start in the knockout stage, I believe, but I'm okay. It's the Netherlands. It's a little different beast, in the way that the game was set up wasn't really great for him. But I think Ferreira is a good player. I'm happy with what I saw from the men's national team. I was happy to see Busio. Here's the thing. Busio has not gotten a great run with Venezia. at all this season. For some reason, the coach of Venezia thinks Tanner Tessman's a better player than Busio and plays him way more. I think he's high and doesn't know what he's doing, which is why they didn't get promoted again. Busio showed tonight showed in the group stage when he has played as that sole number 6 and as kind of a creator, as a deep lying playmaker. He's a darn good player. And I know, sure, Trinidad and Tobago, I mean, this is the team that it has traditionally been a power in CONCACAF, although they're at a low point. St. Kitts and Nevis, also bad, but I didn't think the U.S. looked that great against Jamaica. I thought they looked significantly better in the next 2 games. Yes, the level of competition dropped off, but I don't think that the cohesiveness and the buildup and all that was just because of the fact that they were playing bad teams. I think Busio did well in his showing. I think he's earned himself some more minutes, so I need to see more Bus. And I think he has maybe hopefully with the rest of the Gold Cup, he has an opportunity to play himself away from Venezia, or at least into a better situation there. But yeah, I think there's a couple of winners and a couple of losers out of that lineup, but it has to be, for me, Busio and Ferreira are like some of the biggest winners. Cade's goal against Trinidad was pretty cool, don't get me wrong, but I think Cade at the moment is missing the final product for the most part.
Yeah, he did well in that goal, and we just give you crap because we know you're from San Jose. So
Cade, I probably have more reason to love Cade Cowell than I do the Earthquakes, just because of the fact that Cade's from Ceres, California, which is 10 minutes north of where I grew up. And what's crazy to think about is like I probably could have reffed his like youth games when he was like 8 years old.
He was the same size he is now.
I don't know about that.
I've heard he was always really big. That's why it was a joke.
Oh yeah. No, he's a tank.
Mike laughed. So
I'm tired, man.
All right. If I'm diving into bad humor, then it's probably time to call it quits. I was very happy for Boost. Also, I do hope he gets a little more time, and I hope that the next time he's given an opportunity to leave Venezia, he takes it. My understanding is he had that opportunity when they got demoted, but relegated. All right. Any last words, Mike? You have a minute. Anything.
I got nothing tonight. I'm spent. It's been a long week.
Mike has been stressing over doing Instagram threads. So he's been very tired with Instagram threads. Any last words from you, Mr. Sperry?
Follow me on Threads. I don't know. That's about it. That's all I got. It's my only plug at the moment.
I think I take it we are all on Threads now, except I have actually done nothing on it other than say yes and request everybody to follow me. So, all right. I appreciate you guys joining, man. It was not the most organized pod that I've ever done. Actually, it's probably near the top, but
I've been on much less organized podcasts. It's not and that's no complaint at you. That's more complaint about some of the other podcasts I've done over the years.
No, I trust me.
And
I'm
that
not too worried
includes
about
some of the ones that I've done myself. So you're fine with that.
Yeah, if you're disorganized by yourself, that's a little sad, Mike.
I just can't hold a conversation myself. I go 20 different directions. I'll be talking about something, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I need to mention this, and so I'll go that direction and forget what I was talking about here, and then I'll be over here for like 5 minutes, and then I'll come back. And so it's like I can't. I need somebody to focus me.
Yeah, I get that. And actually what I need to do is need to use this little mute button over here on Daniel. So one question and he's answered 7 questions down the road. And then like, hey, okay, now I got to get back to Mike so he can answer the question that I originally asked Daniel. But that's
all
okay.
Good.
We still love you, Sperry. All right. I appreciate everybody listening.
I was going to say something and I completely forgot, which means it wasn't worth it. So
I would like to say that we were like recording this at midnight and everybody's like just punch drunk tired, but no, we are just
we're
out of
all
it at this point.
We're
somewhat
all
old, and it's 9:30.
Yeah, it's 9:30. I'm ready for bed.
I've been told I'm old a lot lately, man, but that's okay. It's true. I appreciate people listening. Please listen, rate, review, whatever,
Like, share,
whatever.
subscribe.
Share, subscribe, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Threads,
Wherever you get your social media.
Just not LinkedIn. Don't LinkedIn request me.
Oh man, I've been getting so many of those messages lately and I have been ignoring them, and I am done with this pod. We are out.
It's Saturday and the game is on. 10 minutes in, it's 3-0. I'm sipping back on a decan. I don't give a damn if it's 9 a.m. My football team's got me drinking. My football team's got me drinking. My football team's got me drinking. Give me beer or whiskey, wine or gin, anything to shake this mood I'm in. My football team's got me drinking. The other side don't seem so tough, and 3 own goals ain't all that rough. Our skipper has just been sent off. Supporters strong have all gone soft. My football team's got me drinking. My football team's got me drinking. My football team's got me drinking. Give me beer or whiskey, wine or gin, anything to shake this mood I'm in. My football team's got me drinking. My football team's got me drinking. My football team's got me drinking.